Toxic love feels addictive because it doesn't just live in your heart. It seeps into your nervous system and rewires the way your brain responds to pleasure, pain, and attachment, creating a cycle that feels almost impossible to escape. When you're in it, you don't just miss the person. You crave them the same way an addict craves a drug, because their approval, their touch, their attention has become the chemical high your body believes it needs to survive. And when that high is ripped away, the crash feels unbearable. Sleepless nights, racing thoughts, anxiety that tightens your chest, and a hollow emptiness that whispers you'll never feel whole again without them. This is why so many people stay trapped even when they know the relationship is toxic, because the thought of enduring withdrawal feels worse than the abuse itself. It's not logic that binds you, it's biology, and until you learn to see through that illusion, you'll keep mistaking your cravings for love. Stoic wisdom says nothing controls a man more than the emotions he refuses to confront, and toxic love thrives in that blindness, chaining you not with genuine connection, but with unpredictable highs and devastating lows. To understand why walking away feels like tearing out a piece of your soul, you have to see toxic love for what it really is. Not romance, not destiny, but addiction dressed up as passion. And if you don't break the cycle, you'll keep returning to the very fire that's burning you alive. The reason toxic love feels so powerful is because it operates on the level of chemistry, not just choice, and the chemicals involved are the same ones that fuel addiction. When a toxic partner gives you attention, affection, or validation, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and pleasure, along with oxytocin, the bonding chemical that ties you to someone physically and emotionally. In a healthy relationship, these chemicals stabilize into a secure rhythm, creating peace and trust, but in a toxic relationship, the rhythm is deliberately broken. One moment they're warm, affectionate, and present, and the next they're cold, distant, or punishing. This unpredictability floods your body with cortisol, the stress hormone, and when cortisol mixes with dopamine, it creates one of the most powerful and unstable emotional cocktails a human can experience. Your nervous system learns to crave the relief that comes after the tension, and the cycle becomes intoxicating. The longer the withdrawal, the more euphoric the reunion feels. This is why people often say the highs in toxic love feel unlike anything else. They are chemically supercharged by pain, confusion, and relief all at once. The tragedy is that your brain cannot tell the difference between what is good for you and what is simply stimulating, so it bonds deeper to the very person who causes the most chaos. Stoic wisdom says what excites you is rarely what strengthens you, and in toxic love, your biology is tricked into mistaking volatility for passion, making you believe that the fire consuming you is the same thing as warmth. The cycle of reinforcement is what keeps people chained to toxic love long after logic tells them to leave, because the human brain is wired to become obsessed with unpredictability. When someone gives you affection consistently, your nervous system relaxes and begins to expect it. But when they give it sporadically, showing love one moment, then pulling away the next, your brain goes into survival mode, constantly scanning for the next hit of validation. This mirrors the psychology of gambling addiction. Slot machines don't pay out every time, but the uncertainty of not knowing when the next win will come makes players more hooked than if they won on every pull. In relationships, this push-pull dynamic creates the same effect. Every breadcrumb of affection after a period of coldness feels magnified, almost euphoric, because your body was starved and then suddenly rewarded. That reinforcement loop conditions you to work harder for their love, even as it depletes you, because the pain of the withdrawal convinces you the high is worth chasing. The more inconsistent the cycle, the deeper the attachment becomes, because your mind equates unpredictability with significance. This is why toxic partners can disappear for days, return with minimal effort, and still hold power over you. The scarcity of their affection makes it feel more valuable, even though it's actually hollow. Stoic wisdom reminds us that what comes and goes by chance is not true fortune, but illusion. And in the same way, the love that feels so rare in a toxic bond is not love at all. It's scarcity disguised as depth, a manipulation of your psychology that keeps you addicted to the very uncertainty that drains you. The crash after the high is where toxic love reveals its true nature, because once the dopamine fades and the affection is withdrawn, you're left in a state that feels almost unbearable, like your entire body is protesting the absence of the drug it was promised. Unlike a healthy breakup, where grief is steady and gradually eases, the aftermath of toxic love feels like emotional whiplash. One day you're soaring on a wave of intensity, the next you're plunged into emptiness so deep it feels like suffocation. Your nervous system, conditioned to the push-pull, begins firing alarms, racing thoughts, panic, obsessive checking of your phone, sleepless nights replaying every word and gesture, searching for clues about why they pulled away. It feels less like heartbreak and more like withdrawal, because your brain is literally craving the chemical spikes that came with their affection. That craving disguises itself as missing them, but what you're really missing is the relief from the pain they created. This is why so many people relapse, crawling back to partners who hurt them, because the body convinces the mind that only the source of the poison can also be the cure. In truth, what feels like love in those moments is just the brain demanding another hit, and the deeper the cycle runs, the more unbearable the silence feels when it collapses. Stoic wisdom says suffering intensifies not from the event itself, but from the meaning we attach to it. And in toxic love, the withdrawal only feels like loss because you've been tricked into believing chaos equals connection. Once you see the craving for what it is, a chemical echo of pain, you begin to recognize that the crash was never proof of love, but proof of how deeply your biology was manipulated. Breaking free from this cycle isn't just about deciding to walk away. It's about equipping yourself with the right tools to handle the storm of withdrawal that follows. Because willpower alone is rarely enough when your nervous system is screaming for the very person who wounded you. This is where many people fail. They think leaving is a single act. But the real battle begins in the silence afterward, when the cravings and self-doubt start whispering that going back would be easier. To survive that stage, you need strategies that don't just numb the pain, but rewire your mind to see clearly through the illusion. That's why I created Surviving the Toxic Bond, my survival guide available as both an audiobook and ebook, because it takes you step by step through the psychology of these withdrawals and gives you practical methods to detach, regain clarity, and reclaim control over your emotions. The audiobook in particular is designed for those moments when your mind feels weak, when the urge to reach out is overwhelming, so you can press play, hear the truth, and remind yourself of the strength you're building by enduring the silence. And if you prefer to read and listen together to really let the lessons sink in, the ebook is there too, so you can absorb the wisdom in whichever way hits hardest. Toxic bonds are designed to make you relapse, but with the right guidance, you can not only resist the pull but use the pain as fuel to build unshakable resilience. Download it today through the link in the description and pinned comment, and arm yourself with the knowledge you'll need when the cravings come, because surviving withdrawal is not about luck. It's about preparation, strategy, and discipline. The illusion of needing them is the most dangerous lie toxic love convinces you of, because the mind confuses craving with connection, making you believe that the emptiness you feel without them is proof of how much you love them, when in reality, it's only proof of how addicted you've become to the chemical spikes they created. You don't miss their coldness, their gaslighting, or their absence. You miss the dopamine release that came when they briefly gave you what you were starved of, and your brain mistakes that relief for genuine intimacy. This is why people say, "I can't live without them," not realizing that what they can't live without is the cycle of tension and release, pain and comfort, abuse and apology. True love doesn't chain you to another human being's inconsistency. It steadies you, nourishes you, and gives you clarity. Toxic love does the opposite, making you believe that chaos is passion and suffering is proof of depth. The more you equate longing with love, the more you'll justify mistreatment, because your nervous system has been trained to interpret the absence of chaos as emptiness. Stoic wisdom says we suffer more from imagination than from reality, and here the imagination takes the form of a story you tell yourself, that without this person, you are broken, empty, and incomplete. The truth is the opposite. It is their presence that keeps you fractured, and it is only in their absence, once you endure the withdrawal, that you rediscover how whole you already were. The need for them is not need at all. It's dependency dressed as devotion, a craving disguised as love, and once you expose it for what it is, the chains begin to break. The fear of silence is what makes no contact feel like torture at first, because when the toxic cycle is broken and there are no messages, no arguments, no late-night calls, the nervous system panics and interprets that emptiness as danger. For someone conditioned to constant highs and lows, silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unbearable, like being locked in a room with nothing but your own thoughts and cravings echoing back at you. This is why so many people relapse, not because they truly want the person back, but because they want relief from the discomfort of silence. The absence of drama exposes the void inside, and instead of sitting in it and letting it pass, they rush to fill it with the very chaos that caused their suffering. What most people don't realize is that silence is the antidote to the poison, because only in silence does the nervous system have the chance to reset and detox. Every day you endure without reaching out is a day your body learns to survive without the drug, a day your mind gets stronger and your emotions become less reactive. It is in the stillness that your power returns, but at first it feels like weakness, because your biology is screaming against it. Stoic wisdom says discipline often feels like death to the part of you that is weak, and silence is the purest form of that discipline. Choosing not to chase, not to beg, not to fill the void, but to let it stretch wide open until the cravings lose their power. What feels unbearable today will one day feel like freedom, but only if you have the courage to face the silence head-on. Rewiring the mind after toxic love is not a quick fix, but a deliberate process of retraining your nervous system to no longer mistake chaos for connection. And this is where discipline and detachment become your greatest weapons. Each time you resist the urge to reach out, each time you sit in the discomfort without seeking relief from them, you carve a new neural pathway that teaches your brain survival without their presence. Over time, what once triggered anxiety begins to lose its power because your nervous system learns that silence does not equal danger, it equals stability. This is the essence of emotional reprogramming, replacing the automatic craving with conscious choice, transforming the reflex to cling into the strength to release. Stoic wisdom tells us that the mind becomes strong when it is trained to endure what once broke it, and every moment of restraint is a rep in the gym of resilience. The more you practice detachment, the less their absence controls you, and eventually you reach the point where the thought of them no longer spikes your heart rate, no longer hijacks your focus, no longer dictates your peace. At that stage, you see with brutal clarity how much of what you once called love was only a chain of reactions built on fear, scarcity, and chemical manipulation. The rewiring is complete when their return no longer tempts you, when you can look at the storm they bring and feel nothing but calm detachment, because the bond that once felt unbreakable has been exposed as an illusion. Freedom beyond the addiction is the moment you realize that the love you thought you couldn't live without was never love at all, but a prison built from craving, illusion, and pain, disguised as passion. And when you finally endure the full weight of withdrawal, the chains that once felt unbreakable begin to crumble into dust. What once consumed your mind daily, waiting for their call, obsessing over their silence, replaying their mixed signals, suddenly feels distant, almost trivial, because you've proven to yourself that you can survive without them. That survival is not just endurance, it is transformation. Because each day you choose discipline over desire, your sense of self grows stronger than the bond that held you captive. You begin to see with sharp clarity that true love does not hollow you out, it grounds you, and what once felt like a soul-deep connection now looks like a cheap imitation of intimacy, a performance designed to keep you hooked. When the cravings die, you don't just feel relief, you feel power, because you realize that nothing external has control over your peace unless you hand it over. Stoic wisdom says freedom is found not in avoiding chains, but in breaking them, and toxic love was the forge that taught you how to do it. Once you've walked through the fire and come out the other side, you can never be fooled by the same illusion again, because you've seen the truth. What masqueraded as passion was addiction, what felt like destiny was dependency, and what you called love was only the shadow of what love is meant to be. The freedom that follows is not just release from a person, but mastery over yourself. And that is a victory no toxic bond can ever take away from you again. The truth about toxic love is that it will always feel addictive until you decide to stop mistaking your cravings for connection and your withdrawals for proof of love. Because the chains were never built by them alone, they were reinforced each time you chose the high over your own peace. But once you've endured the silence, rewired your mind, and reclaimed your power, you no longer see the storm as irresistible. You see it for what it always was: manipulation dressed as passion, chaos disguised as intimacy. And that's why you must remember to keep strengthening your discipline every single day, because the battle doesn't end with leaving. It continues with never letting anyone take your peace again. If you need guidance along the way, remember to download Surviving the Toxic Bond. Both the audiobook and the ebook are waiting for you, link in the description and pinned comment, so that in your weakest moments, you never stand unarmed against the pull of the past. And if this message has spoken to you, make sure to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Master yourself, protect your peace, and never confuse the chains of addiction with the strength of true love.